And so adoption has been a crazy, joyous, dramatic experience, and a little bit of a roller coaster definitely at times, but it's been an amazing thing to be like the perfect picture of what Christ has done for us.
And we told each other we're planning to adopt later on, maybe adopting an older child, whatever the, just we had that heart. I feel like God just kind of gave us that heart to really have that sensitivity to these children. And the Lord just opened the door every step of the way, every obstacle that we placed, so to speak, in God's path of this process, He just removed it. And it was just a beautiful process to know that at a certain point, we're like, okay, now it's an obedience thing. We need to be obedient to God and do what He wants us to do. And it was just a really neat process how it transpired.
We traveled to India in 2008, and we didn't know that it would be a really dangerous time in India. We were traveling from New Delhi to the state of Orissa. It's called Odisha now. And so we got in, and New Delhi was very friendly and very warm. And when we boarded our flight to go to Orissa, we were told that there was violence breaking out. And we knew it was it's in northern India, it was hostile to Christianity, so we knew that ahead of time. We're praying for protection, had many praying for us. And by the time we landed, the situation had really escalated. And so we were pretty much immediately in danger. And so we got into this hotel and were told about the danger. And we didn't even know if we would be able to get our daughter at that time. The only television that was just showing churches burning and orphanages burning and really scary things that we couldn't understand any of it. We didn't know where it was. We didn't know if it was our daughter's orphanage. And so we just had a lot of time just praying. My husband and the other dad that was with us were actually searching through the hotel for escape routes for us. So it was just kind of mind-blowing.
And come to find out, there was another Hindu person assassinated this other Hindu person so they could blame it on the Christians. And so there was a riot scheduled for the next day, which was a pretty scary thing to think about. And so we were told, do not leave your hotel room or you will be harmed. And what that means is you will most likely be killed. And so evidently this was one of the worst Christian persecutions in this area in a long time. It was on Voice of the Martyrs, and there was hundreds of Christians that were martyred, and thousands of Christians displaced, and it was definitely a third world situation where tires were burning in the streets. We couldn't go around. And what was really cool about this, we just saw one answered prayer after another through this situation. But another couple that was with us, there were another Christian couple from Connecticut adopting their child as well. And he prayed for God to bring rain the next day. And so because we had already been held up in this hotel for about 24 hours. And he prayed for rain, and it was like a monsoon in the morning. The trees were bent over, and our interpreter that was with us, he says, I'm going to hire a driver and we're going to go to the orphanage to try to get Shaz, because we didn't know if we were even going to be able to get her at this point. We didn't know if her orphanage was being burned, because we had heard about orphanages being burned, and so we were just really concerned that everything was going to just fall apart with this adoption. And so we got in the car, our windows immediately fogged up, and we were told that any vehicles on the road during the riot, people could be shot. But with the rain, the crowds dispersed, and we were able to go all the way. Of course, we prayed the whole way there, all the way into the orphanage, and the gate opened. As soon as our car went in the gate, the sun came out. It was and that was the only rain we saw the entire time while we were there, and it was just like God protected us so we could have this adoption story. But when we came into the gate, we got out of our car, and all we could hear was "Mommy, Daddy, Mommy, Daddy, Mommy, Daddy." All these kids in this orphanage were screaming "Mommy, Daddy," and it just took your breath away. It's like, wow, all these kids just screaming for a mom and dad, and of course we knew one of these was our Shaz, and so we were looking desperately trying to find her, but later on we were able to meet her and take her out of the orphanage.
The last thing that our interpreter Rajiv told us before we went to bed the very first night is we were very concerned about all of this violence. Well, number one, he was staying in a different hotel, so we didn't even have any way to contact him at all. We were on our own in this hotel. And the last thing he said was, we'll see how things are in the morning, but we might rent an ambulance and have you lay down in the back and try to make it to the orphanage, because they don't normally shoot at the ambulance. So as you can imagine, we didn't get a lot of sleep that night with those visions running through our head. Thankfully, in the morning, he thought that was a bad idea, so we just had to wait, and God just protected us through that whole process. But it was difficult. I mean, there's just no other way around it. It really came to a point for me. I tease my kids and say I'm a professional worrier. I mean, I'm really good at it. And that's something the Lord's had to work on in my heart. So I had ample opportunity at this time to decide whether I was going to worry and fret or I was going to really trust the Lord. Because it's easy for us to say that we trust God in all of our circumstances, but when you're not sure you're going to make it out alive, or if you're going to leave 3 orphans at home trying to rescue an orphan, I really had to make that conscious choice of saying, God, I trust you no matter what happens. And to just be able to, as the psalm says, lie down and sleep in peace because he makes us dwell in safety. And so we were in just sort of a waiting process. We were finally able to go and get her, and it was amazing seeing her for the first time. And so I think sometimes the misconception is it's going to be easy, or it's going to be, those problems will be resolved quickly, and they're not always, but it's worth it. It's worth it. And when God calls you to do something like this and to reach into the life of a child who, if she didn't get adopted by the time she was 12, normally they would push the kids out onto the street and they would fend for themselves. And we know what that would mean in India. And so for us to know that we could bring her to a safe place and we could love her and we could show Christ and we could just be the hands and feet of Christ to her, even if she didn't love it, it's an amazing thing. And it's been the biggest blessing. We think of adoption as we're helping an orphan or we're helping a child. Well, she's changed us. And she's changed our lives, and we are so blessed to have her in our family. One of my favorite Bible verses is in Colossians, and it says that he rescued us from the dominion of darkness and brought us into the kingdom of the Son he loves, in whom we have redemption, the forgiveness of sins. And to me, that's like the most beautiful picture of adoption, because we were able to go to a very poverty-stricken, dangerous place and rescue our daughter from darkness, from a very dark place, spiritually dark, and rescue her and bring her into our family. And I just love the visual of thinking of when we gave her her first bath. She'd never had a bath before, and we were able to wash her clean and put on princess jammies. And I think of how Christ washes us clean and puts on us the garments of salvation. There's so many correlations between our earthly adoptions and our heavenly adoption, and it's beautiful that we can rescue a child who's in danger and love her and help her find Christ and push her toward Christ. And so it's been an amazing experience for our family.
Whether it's a baby in a mother's womb, or a child on the streets of India who needs to be adopted, each child is precious in God's sight, and each one should have people that are advocating for them and trying to help. Obviously, not everybody can adopt, but everybody could have a heart of adoption. The innocent should be spoken up for. The Word of God speaks clearly about that. In fact, I have a verse that says, "Speak up for those who can't speak for themselves. Speak up for the rights of all those who are poor." So I love that aspect of speaking up for the poor, speaking up for those who can't speak up for themselves, whether it's a baby in a mother's womb or it is a child on on the streets of India, we can speak up for those who can't speak for themselves.
My parents had like a video of me running to them, and it just, I looked really happy, and I know I was just happy to be adopted by a great family.